The Central Bank of Nigeria has a new governor, Olayemi Cardoso, including 4 other new deputy governors who have been screened and confirmed by the Senate.
Well, his nomination and confirmation comes on the heels of the, quote, emergency resignation by the former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele. According to the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, no letter of resignation from Emefiele was read or made available to senators and journalists during the Senate plenary. In his first major policy statement, Cardoso said the CBN is looking to grow the size of the Nigerian economy to a staggering value of $1 trillion in gross domestic product in the next 8 years.
The issue of corporate governance and how will issues of corporate governance be addressed. We also identify the diminished institutional autonomy. How can public and financial system stakeholders' confidence be restored in the autonomy and integrity of CBN? Can the central bank look to adopting a worldwide code for institutional autonomy? We also look at the need to refocus CBN back to its core functions. What needs to be in place to revert to evidence-based monetary policies?
With the information of the emergency resignation from office of the governor of Central Bank and the 4 deputies, we cannot allow a vacuum. So the Senate had to resume today to try to sort this out for the interest of all Nigerians.
I think there are lots of jobs to do. Like I said, the variables are very weak. Economic variables are very weak. And it is when you work on those variables that you can recover the economy. So it's not in any economist jargons or rhetoric. The key point is that the independent variables that impact on the economy are very weak. For example, GDP to cash ratio, which means that the size of the economy is the GDP. The amount of cash available is 1.3%. You have a 480 billion economic size, you have cash of 1.3%. How do you want to run that economy? You have a recurrent expenditure, you have capital projects, you have to pay debts and all that. So it's not an easy, it's not going to be easy. But I think they have the understanding that they have a lot of work to do.
But with what is on ground, international community must have to come to our rescue. And most of the monies they borrowed out, they let out in form of anchor borrowers that were misused. If the money is, if they bring back the money, you see that we are going to be on the same track. We may achieve 1/4 or half of what is said.
All right, one point that was made in the, during the screening, Solai, the issue of forex stability. And one other point really that jumps at me is allowing the Nigerian banks to handle Nigeria's foreign reserve. That question was asked by, one of the senators during the screening. And I'm wondering how, realistic or even desirable that is. We hope we'll have Bode Ososami to help us understand.
I think you're right. You're spot on. Okay, I think Bode, right on time.
Right.
Bode.
Fine. Bode Ososami, good to see you. Very ambitious, very ambitious one on the part of the new CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso. He wants a $1 trillion economy for Nigeria within the next 8 years. I wonder how realistic that is. But what are the challenges before the new CBN governor as he takes over?
Well, thank you for having me on the show, and sorry for the technical hitch. The incoming central bank leadership comes with obviously exceptional qualifications, and the markets are positive on the nomination, seeing it as a return to more orthodox monetary traditions. But obviously it comes with its own challenges. The traditional mandate of price stability and maximizing employment in the context of a healthy and growing economy is not going to be easy. GDP growth at Q2 second quarter was 2.51%. Adjusting for population growth on a per capita basis is almost nil. Inflation climbed to 25.8% in August 2023 from 24.08% in July, marking the highest rate since September 2005. So it's a bit like a poisoned chalice, for want of a better word. One main challenge has always been the independence of the position, balanced with accountability to Nigerians, and the high mutual respect between the president and the governor may result in strong independence, but that should also be blended with scheduled hearings with the legislature to carry Nigerians along. The other thing that is a huge challenge is the low local and global market confidence. That won't be fixed in a hurry. The GDP growth will probably have to be as much as maybe 7% or thereabouts to attain that $1 trillion target. And of course, we also have other challenges: inadequate data and analytics to support the central bank, balancing the many short-term fires with the long-term priorities, and of course, getting the right teaming between fiscal and monetary side. So quite a lot of challenge, but the central bank boss, all eyes are on how the initial steps are going to be looking like.
Well, but the $1 trillion target is very important that we also try and touch on that. So how should Nigerians measure his success, and what do you think should be his immediate priorities?
Well, $1 million or $1 trillion is the long-term target, but clearly there are a lot of very immediate issues. Finding the dollars supply to clear outstanding trade obligations. He needs a coherent and realistic strategy for medium-term foreign exchange sourcing, clearing the FX backlog. Confidence takes time, so he may need to consider IMF support for a temporary cover for FX gaps to address balance of payments. Of course, he has to negotiate the right conditions. I'm not sure that is absolutely necessary, but if they can't find the FX, they may not have a choice. The era of lavish naira printing is obviously over, and you need much more strict monetary supply in a sustainable framework to address abuse of ways and means. Of course, if you're going to get $1 trillion, you have to address oil theft and plug all the fiscal leakages. It's not only oil that is illegally diverted. You need to find and plug all the other leakages, perhaps use the independent experts to audit the financial ecosystem. We need to explore asset sales for foreign exchange to improve fiscal space and enhance productivity. Remove the restrictions and bottlenecks to capital inflows, relax capital inflows, the controls, but introduce better processes to monitor, perhaps even audit who gets FX and for what. And of course, you need to apply stern sanctions for round-tripping irregularities. A lot to be done. The central bank institution needs to be strengthened, made more transparent. Organizational inefficiencies need to be fixed. Its key role of prudential regulation, financial institutions, conduct, improving supervision, monitoring, all these will need somewhat of an upgrade. And like I said, strengthening the economics and the analysis capacity to improve on modeling, perhaps introducing a summary of economic projections report every quarter. The measures of success, where the CBN plays a role directly or indirectly, of course, the quarterly growth and quality of life indicators, PMIs, GDP growth, poverty reduction, CPI, that's inflation and unemployment indicators, asset quality, non-performing loans and capital adequacy of banks. Of course, I will suggest a professional survey of stakeholders of the CBN, whether it meets expectations. The Bank of England does something similar, and you can easily outsource this. The gap between parallel and official dollar rates should be close to nil. Percentage increase in foreign direct investment, improvements in reserve, lowering the debt-revenue ratio, money supply growth indicators. There are quite a lot of measures, although I must add, these are measures that will be achieved within the context of teamwork with other members of the economic team.
No doubt. Well, the belief is that there's a good team that will be handling the CBN going forward. But in spite of rate hikes, inflation continues untamed. Some say, look, supply side reforms are highly needed. What are your projections, especially for inflation in the medium term?
Well, we're at a time of global high inflation, which obviously is going to affect us. But the issues leading to where we are are well known: insecurity, foreign exchange scarcity, supply chain bottlenecks, low productivity in the agricultural sector, high energy cost, fiscal excess, and so on. Let me use a metaphor that I hope all will be able to easily understand. I think we are in the iodine on the wounded economy stage, which means pains, which should be spread fairly or alleviated with support as the government can afford. And the government needs to be sensitive to these economic pains and but they should not stop or reduce the treatment dosage. We have a measure of assurance if we are applying the right tested solutions that soon, after a while, there will be a healthier economy. But to relate that to inflation, inflation is likely to remain high for a while, may exceed 30% before we begin to see, say next year, the base effect resulting in sharp drops. And if we are consistent in applying the right economic policies and reforms, we should get a stabilization under 20% in 2024, maybe under 15% in 2025, and maybe single digit by end of 2025. Typically, the last stage or drops are the more difficult to achieve. Well, single digit inflation is impossible. Remember, between 2014 and 2016, we had inflation under 10%. Between 2006 and 2007, inflation was actually under 5%. So we can get back to single digit inflation. But whether we can do that in the near term, of course, I doubt. I think it's until more like 2025 or 2024 is the more likely scenario. But we definitely need to stay the course.
I would like to thank you for your time. Let's see how it goes and how the team starts the job going from now. Bode, Ososami, many thanks for your time.